So let's start. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure for us to have you here to discuss such an important topic as women's leadership in tourism. So let me start by quickly introducing myself. I'm Selene. I'm the global coordinator here at Planeterra, and I'll be hosting today's session along with my amazing colleagues, Priyanka and Evie, who will also be supporting us with the chat section and the Q&A. So anything, if you have any issue or just want or just need something or want to comment something, please feel free to drop a comment in the chat section. And so a bit about what we have planned for today. We'll start with a brief introduction about Planeterra and our global community tourism network, and then we will begin to slowly dive into today's topic by reflecting on why we think women's leadership in tourism is important. And then my colleague Priyanka will introduce you to our inspiring panelists. And after that, we will open the panel discussion. So for that, we have planned some questions. It would be like a conversation between our panelists so they can share their experiences and what they've learned through their inspiring careers. And at the end, we will open the floor for some Q&As. So in Zoom, you have a Q&A section at the bottom. So if you can write your questions there, that would be great. But if you cannot find it, of course, you can also send your questions in the chat section. That is totally fine as well. Okay, so most of you might already know who is Planeterra. So we're the leading nonprofit organization using tourism to uplift communities. That is to create a positive impact on their lives. And our mission is to connect our partners and local communities to the benefits of the tourism industry by developing and supporting community-owned enterprises while also promoting a more responsible way to travel. And of course, you can visit our website to learn more about us. Our website is planeterra.org. So you're always free to visit and learn a bit more about us and about our work. And well, one of our cornerstone initiatives to support community tourism enterprises is our Global Community Tourism Network, which is a space for communities from all over the world to connect, to learn, and to get the tools they need in order to thrive in the tourism industry. So as part of these activities, we connect with the Global Community Tourism Network members monthly through webinars and community hours. Most of them are exclusively for the members of the network, but on occasions like this, like today, we've opened the webinar to a wider audience because we think we believe this topic is important, and we have a wonderful lineup of panelists who will share their inspiring stories. So we're thrilled to have 425 community tourism enterprises from 77 different countries being part of the network. That's something motivating. And well, then now I wanted to slowly start to dive into today's topic to reflect on why is women's leadership in tourism important. And I would love it if you can also write your thoughts about this in the comment section, if you feel like it, of course. And also maybe we can reflect together on why don't we have more female leadership in tourism. So we'll discuss this as well during the session, but if you feel like sharing it in the comments, that would be amazing. So why does Planeterra believe in women's leadership in tourism? Why do we believe it's important? Well, one of the main groups that we support is women. So through our work, we help them redefine the roles in society by providing life-changing access to education and job training. And we do this mainly because throughout the years, we have seen how women's work has not only have a a positive impact on their lives, but also on the lives of their communities, and has contributed a great deal to their well-being. So this is something that inspires us to continue advocating for female leadership in our sector, no? And we want to share how we can all benefit from it, because we also believe that this helps to create more awareness of the importance. And we have many projects being led by women worldwide. And well, here you can see a picture of Cacacoyo weaving cooperative in Peru. This is one of the examples. And in here you also see a few of other examples of projects that use tourism to empower women around the world. But even though we've seen a lot of projects thrive, we're also well aware that there are a lot of challenges to overcome. And as I mentioned, we will be discussing this with our panelists as well. So without further ado, I'll give the mic to Priyanka, who will have the honor to introduce our panelists. So Priyanka,
Thank you.
it's time to introduce our inspiring panelists. Yeah.
Thank you, Selena. So happy and honored to be doing this, introducing our panelists. So I'm going to request Selena to please change and we can move to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So the first up on the screen is Aayusha Prasain. So Aayusha is the CEO of Community Homestay Network. They are in Nepal. And prior to joining the Community Homestay Network, she has worked in various development and research organizations, particularly working towards women and youth empowerment and rural development. As the CEO of Community Homestay Network, she is working towards strengthening the organization while streamlining and scaling the impact through tourism across communities. Ayusha, along with her team at Community Homestay Network, also work towards bringing local actors into the tourism value chain and promote responsible and inclusive tourism. Along with that, she continuously works on strengthening the Community Homestay Network's organization strategy as well as building networks and partnerships. And I'll also like to add that I'm really honored that I get to directly work with Ayusha on a really regular basis. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ayusha. Now we can move to the next slide, please. Our next speaker is Tshepiso Moshesh. And Tshepiso, if I have not said that right, you please interrupt me and if I didn't get the pronunciation right. So she is in the hospitality program coordinator at Good Work Foundation, studied at the South African College for Tourism at Graaf-Reinet, where she took a course in small establishments operations and then another one in management, majoring in culinary, food, and beverage. Joined one of the best uh, known reserves in South Africa called Sabi Sabi as a receptionist, and then became lodge manager at one of the uber chic lodges owned by Rora Private Retreats. In late 2020, she answered her true calling to touch lives by training the youth that needs to be equipped with skills needed in the tourism industry. At Good Work Foundation, she works in collaboration with the South African College for Tourism, changing lives one smile, one touch, and one skill development at a time. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome. We are really excited and waiting to hear each and every speaker of ours. Next one, please. Our next speaker is Soumya, and Soumya is the Regional Operations Manager for North Africa and the Middle East of G Adventure. As a young Berber girl growing up in Morocco, she was raised in a very strong patriarchal society. Thus, at a very young age, she knew she wanted better for herself. This started her educational and travel journey, created the first ever women empowerment club at the American University in Cairo in Egypt. In G Adventures, she was the first to add female chief experience officers, whom we like to call CEOs, to every single country throughout the MENA region. Welcome, Soumya. We are so excited and really looking forward to hearing you also. Over to our next speaker. Sheba Paramville. Again, this is somebody I work very closely. So very happy to be introducing Sheba. She's the city chief at Jaipur for Saka Consulting. Women with Wheels is a first social sector travel job with travel and tourism. In there, she started by handling business development and operations for Delhi, and now she is working for the Jaipur branch. Today, they have grown to 72 drivers and have 40 vehicles in Saka Consulting, is what they are known as. And I'm so excited that today, not just we have Dakshiba with us, we also have Bubbly Ji from her team joining us. So Bubbly is a team leader. She has been with Saka Consulting for the last 7 years as a driver. And for the last 4 years, she has been the team leader with the Women with Wheels organization. So Bubbly started as a driver and now handles a team of drivers and also handles operations. So thank you so much for joining us. If you can give me 2 minutes, if I can just translate whatever little I can for Bubbly. Selena, if I can do that.
Thank
So
you.
या नमस्ते बबली जी मैं आपके लिए थोड़ा ट्रांसलेट कर देती हूँ सो मेरी कोलीग सेलेना जो प्लानेटेरा मेरे साथ है उन्होंने ये बोला कि जैसे आप लोग साका कंसल्टिंग में आप कैब चलाते हैं वैसे ही हमारे प्लानेटेरा में बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है 400 से ज्यादा हैं जो ऐसे कम्युनिटीज के साथ हम जुड़ के काम करते हैं जहाँ पे आज हम चर्चा कर रहे हैं औरतों को लेके कि औरतों को लीडरशिप रोल में होना चाहिए कि नहीं जैसे आप जो कर रहे हैं आप लीडर है राइट आप एक टीम लीडर हैं आप ऑपरेशंस हैंडल कर रही है शिवाजी हैंडल करते हैं तो सब जैसे वो ही हम चर्चा करेंगे कि औरतों को कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है कि नहीं है और हम करते हैं तो क्या क्या हमें मुश्किलें आती हैं बट हम उन मुश्किलों से भी आगे बढ़ जाते हैं क्योंकि हम औरतें हैं तो हमें कुछ रोक नहीं सकता है तो वही इसलिए आज चर्चा करने के लिए सब लोग आए हैं आपके जैसे और भी पैनलिस्ट हैं तो उनकी अपनी भी जैसे संघर्ष किए हुए हैं सबने जैसे सोमिया जी उन्होंने देखा उनकी में भी जैसे हमारे कंट्री में प्रॉब्लम है कि हम मेन को ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंस देते हैं हमें लगता है उनको ज्यादा हमसे समझ आती है वो हमसे ज्यादा स्ट्रांग है हर तरीके से हम सोचते हैं तो हम अपनी क्षमता पे डाउट करते हैं तो उनको भी यही सब उन्होंने देखा तो उनको भी कुछ अलग करना था तो वो जी एडवेंचर्स के साथ जैसे काम करती हैं तो उन सबके अपनी लाइफ में हमारे स्ट्रगल्स लेके हम आज एक प्लेटफॉर्म में आए हैं बिकॉज हम सबके काम जुड़े हुए हैं इसी उसने कि हम विमेन को हम आगे बढ़ोती देते हैं अपने काम के थ्रू तो ये मैं आपको बताना चाहती थी कि हम क्या बोल रहे हैं और जैसे आपने देखा उधर एक फोटो आई थी उसमें एक ऑटो चलाती हुई लेडी भी दिख रही थी वो जयपुर के ही हैं वो भी हमारे साथ ही जुड़े हुए हैं संस्था पिंक सिटी रिक्शा तो आपके जैसे बहुत सारी कम्युनिटीज हैं हमारे 400 से ऊपर कम्युनिटीज हैं 77 कंट्रीज में तो इंडिया तो उसमें इतना से हम है इंडिया बाकी और बहुत सारी कंट्रीज के भी जुड़े हुए हैं आज पैनल डिस्कशन में सब अलग अलग कंट्रीज से हैं जो हमारे को सुन भी रहे हैं अभी लोग हैं कम से कम 23 लोग सुन रहे हैं वो भी अलग अलग देशों से आए हैं कोई लंदन से आपको सुनने आया है कोई इंडिया से सुनने आया है कोई इधर से आया है अफ्रीका से सुनने आया है तो आज हम सब बस आपको सुनने आए हैं सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस एंड थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी ओवर टू यू सेलिना
while we wait on Selena to get back online you're okay with taking that over with the questions or are you happy with me going ahead Priyanka
please go ahead yeah
Awesome. Thank you. So sorry about the technical difficulties. Selena just messaged saying she got disconnected. So I'm sure she'll be back online shortly. But while she comes back online, I'm happy to start the discussion for her with the first question that we have today. And I think the first question was for Aayusha. Aayusha, we've heard so many times that tourism has a pivotal role to play in achieving sustainable development goal number 5. In your opinion, do you think we can achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls through tourism? If you think so, how do you think we can do that?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Evie, for the question. And firstly, I'd like to thank Planeterra for organizing this much needed conversation that we are having today. I definitely think we can achieve gender equality, and align our goals of women leadership, women being empowered through tourism, which aligns with SDG 5, right? But what is important is that how we take this forward is very important, because as we all know, I think most of us know, because we are engaged in tourism and hospitality industry, more than 65% of the labor force in tourism industry are women. It constitutes of women. But however, as the ranks grow up, or as we move above in the position, the leadership, for the leadership position, the number decreases. So I think we need to push ourselves for the women leadership positions. Having women in the industry is not enough. I think that's not enough for now. We need to push the ranks of the women, and that's it's very disappointing to see the data when we come across the research, because 60 to 65% of the women are women in hospitality sector, but when the ranks move up, if it might be an executive position or CEO, only 12% of them are women. Like the odds of having 1 woman compared to 20 men as a CEO. So we really need to focus on the leadership roles as well. Another thing is having leadership across not just tourism sector, but different sectors that support women entrepreneurship or women in tourism. So the institutions or the organizations working with tourism sectors, they also need to have women leaders, because I think without having a thought partner that is women in another position who supports tourism industry, it is very difficult to make a gender sensitive policies, and institution need to really push on that. That could be like something Good Foundation is doing, right? Like the hospitality sector, capacity strengthening, or the institutions providing microfinances, institution working with policies. So we need women leaders across the sectors to make women leaders or women empowered in tourism industry. And lastly, I think I would like to focus on having stronger policies and procedures, because working in a ground level or in an operational level is one thing, but if policies are not supporting us and supporting us to move further, I think that wouldn't be fair for women, or it wouldn't be fair to set a goal to achieve gender equality. So I think from a policy level, we really need to work on that part. Yeah, I think for now I'll stop here. So we'll be adding more later.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Aayusha. That is actually making me think so much right now as how much the gap still needs to be covered. And for Shiva, I have a question for you, which says, what are the benefits tourism organization would get out of having more women as leaders? Do you think as you're actively working in the tourism industry, are you seeing any benefits from working directly with women? And do you think there can be any other benefits that women, that tourism organizations can benefit from having more women?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Eve. And first and foremost, like I would thank again Planeterra and G Adventure for organizing such a discussion. And coming to benefits a tourism organization would get by having more women leaders, I would say, like, initial the threat which happens, like, when somebody wants to travel across, is like the first and foremost would be the security and the safety. How safe we are when if you are traveling across to different parts of the country or like across the world. So when we have more women, we don't have this like problem that we need to face. First thing, like, they provide safety and security. Then women are more professional, and they also like take the ownership of what they do, and they know to empathize and sympathize with the situations where they need to. And at the same time, this is providing more employment to women. When we do this, like, when we enroll, like, we have an organization which is led by women, and the founder of this organization is Meenu Vadera. she's also a feminist and like social entrepreneur. So 80% of our leadership team, I mean the topmost positions are being led by female. And we know even the drivers, like we have female. And the first thing, person takes a cab, they say like, I feel so safe, so that I got a women driver. So, and at the same time, like we do have drivers, then we need to develop, recognize girls and the team members who should be identified as becoming a team lead. I mean, any leader for any leadership position.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Shiva. As a traveler myself as well, I can definitely identify with the safety factor whenever I travel, and I'm sure it's like that for many travelers as well. Once there is a woman presence or a female presence, they feel way safer, they feel more comfortable, and there is definitely a benefit of having more women in the tourism industry. For my next question, it's for Tshepiso. So Tshepiso, we see you every day leading valuable training to young women in tourism, especially in the industry of the Kruger National Park, the biggest national park in South Africa. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing young women facing in breaking the barriers of access to the tourism industry?
Thank you for your question, Evie, and greetings to everybody. It is such an honor to be part of this panel and discussion. Coming to your question, I would say one of the challenges that I see every young woman that is in our training facing is the one of having to choose between their family responsibilities and actually pursuing their careers as women. Because people have this mentality of that women should be the one taking care of their families or being actually back at home rather than pursuing their careers and going out there. So that is one of the challenges that I'm seeing them facing, where they, on a daily basis, they have to choose. Am I staying home to be a sister or to be a daughter to a sickly mother, or my siblings to play the parent role to my siblings, or do I actually get opportunity to come and come for training or to join the tourism industry either by working or so on. So that is one of the major challenges that they are facing. And I will say the other one is of safety, of them actually feeling safe once they have joined the industry, once they've stepped into it. Because there are challenges of whereby when once recognized as a strong woman in the industry, or once they have seen your capabilities, it now becomes a matter of will I be staying safe while I'm in this position that I am? So also ensuring that they are safe, their safety is one of the challenges. But I believe that the major one is having to choose between pursuing their careers and making it in the industry, or actually staying back at home and taking care of their families. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tshepiso. I believe Selena is back. Selena, can you hear me?
Hey everyone. Yes, Evie, I can hear you. I don't know if everyone can hear me well. I just don't see my screen. I don't know if you can see me, and apologies. Perfect timing. That Zoom sort of, well, we have some technical issues, or I had some technical issues. So apologies, everyone.
No worries.
But you can hear me properly.
Yes, we can hear you. So happy to hand it over back to you, Selena.
Thank you so much. So, well, hearing Tshepiso's question, I was wondering if we can continue sort of on that line with another question for you, Tshepiso, as well. So, according to you, well, what do you consider have been the biggest challenges you have to overcome in your career? And I don't know if this is a more personal question, but do you consider that these challenges have something to do with you being identified as a woman?
Thank you for the question, Selena. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, what would life be without challenges? I've had quite a few challenges since joining the industry, from actually being a student, from studying, enrolling in a hospitality course. But I will in overall, I would say the biggest challenge for me is having to work twice or three times as hard as other people, so that I can just get the recognition or the respect that I deserve, considering the hard work that I'm putting in and the knowledge that I'm bringing or the expertise that I'm bringing. I found myself that I had to work like twice or three times harder, as I've mentioned, so that when my name is mentioned or when I walk into the room where I am with the same people, the people who are in the same industry as me, so that I can be respectful. And personally, I think it's because I'm a woman. Because as one of the ladies has mentioned earlier on, yes, you do get a lot of women in the industry, but as you go on onto the executive positions, unfortunately, there's not many of us. And I found myself in places whereby I will have to sit in a room whereby I'm the only lady. And I have to face the challenge of them respecting me because of my worth and the fact that I deserve to be there because of my hard work, rather than them having a conclusion of that I have used other means to get the position that I currently occupy. So it's the fact of that every day I had to, especially when I was in management of the accommodation establishments, I had to um, I would not say talk louder, but I had to actually work much more harder than them, so that they can recognize me and respect me and realize that I am just as capable as as they are. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. And this is always a topic that personally it interests me, because I never really thought about me not getting any position or any other related position in the industry, basically because I'm a woman. I've never really personally, I don't think I've had this situation, but then again, I never really thought about it until just a few years back, and I just wonder how many chances were lost because of that, because it happens, because I've read it, because I know it, and now that you mention it, it's a reality, that it's a sad reality, but it happens. No, there's some factors as well that prevent more senior roles or executive roles being held by women, when we can accomplish so much by having a mix of of ideas, both from men and from women in leadership roles. So thank you so much for your answer. And I wanted to follow a bit this particular topic with Somia. I was wondering if you could share with us if you consider that women have not received the same opportunities of guidance and mentorship as men in order to occupy these leadership roles in the tourism industry.
Mhm. Thank you, Celine, for your question, and thank you as well for having me on this exciting panelist discussion. Now, to answer your question, I want to go back to what my colleague Aayusha has stated earlier, which is in terms of the percentage, the global percentage of women in tourism, which is 60 to 65%. But that, as she said, when you do start to look at the managerial positions, that number decreases to about 20%. Now, of course, if we were to look at specific regions and being the regional manager for the Middle East and North Africa region, so I want to talk a little bit about that, is that when you start to look at this region specifically, that number decreases significantly. So we also kind of have to look at the regional aspect of this number, because that differs. And yeah, to answer your question, I think that definitely women have not been given the same opportunities of guidance and mentorship as men in overall in tourism industry, but specifically when we talk about leadership positions. And I think that it has to do with a lot of factors, but I think as well that when you're looking at women, and normally when you're looking at skills and when you're looking at recruiting new managers or new staff, women are always tend to be seen as having strong organizational skills and multitasking skills. Like that's just how that stereotype is throughout the world. And so when you do look at it that way, then they tend to be seen to be better fit in terms of positions which are admin positions. So those are entry positions. They're not naturally considered to have great leadership skills and that they would be great fit as leadership. So I think just this mindset needs to be changed. So this is where we need to start. And of course, if we want to dig deeper into the conversation, it all has to do with the fact that, you know, we all live in a very patriarchal society where these types of stereotypes and norms are so deeply entrenched in the way that we think about gender roles that it almost becomes second, you know, nature to us, and we don't even question it, that's just how you think. So a recruiter, a manager, whoever the position is, when they're looking to recruit, when they're thinking about this, automatically their brain is set up to think that way. So I think for us to make a change in this, we do have to sit down and think about why is it that we are, you know, automatically thinking in this way, and really kind of take a second to think about it and shift our mindset into, you know, saying, well, no, we have to think otherwise, and we have to kind of put these types of social norms aside and focus on the person and on the candidate that's in front of us. But always, I think this question for me also opens up this very tricky question, which I've had many discussions about with my fellow colleagues, friends, and family, which is basically that as well, we know that women have not been given opportunities and have not been supported. This is a fact. So we know that, and that also leads to the fact that women aren't in these leadership positions in the tourism industry for sure, but also in other sectors around. And so when you have, for example, when you're somebody recruiting, and this is something I always think about, is when you have, for example, two candidates in front of you. Let's say you have a male candidate and a female candidate. Both of them are, you know, are experienced, both of them have great skills, and both of them are good candidates. But then maybe the male candidate has more experience than the female candidate. Do you then sit and think, well, I picked the male candidate because they have more experience? Or do you sit and think, well, why is the female candidate doesn't have that much experience? It goes back to the fact that she wasn't given those opportunities. So if you then make that decision to give the position to the male candidate, you're just contributing to this vicious circle where that female is never going to be able to get those opportunities. And that female is never going to be able to grow and take on these leadership positions. So it's a vicious circle. So sometimes you're like, okay, well, we want to be equal, and we want to, you know, hire and recruit based on merit. But then do you have to look at, were those people given the same chances to begin with? So if those two people were given the same chances and the same opportunities, yes, then you pick based on merit. But if you go back, that woman has not gotten those same chances, then you have to also actively think, I need to then be that person to make that decision and give that opportunity to that female, to empower that person and give them those opportunities that they didn't get in the past. And by doing that, you're then mentoring them, you're then guiding them, you're then providing that chance and that opportunity for them to excel and for them to grow and you know, take on those leadership positions. So I think this is really where it becomes very tricky, is that we have to have that mindset and we have to shift it. If we do not shift it, we can have as many, you know, guidance and mentorship as we want, but we're never going to change the fact that men are still going to hold leadership positions, and that percentage is going to continue to be higher than women in leadership positions. So for me, I think that that's really, like I said, I think definitely women haven't been provided those opportunities, and I think for us to be able to make that happen in the future, we have to have a shift in our mindset, and we have to give opportunities to women, because we know that they weren't given opportunities in the past, and we know that when we're comparing them to a male candidate, we're not comparing the same thing. So that's yeah, so I think that is how you know, that's what we need, is definitely a shift in our mindset.
Wow, thank you so much, Sumia. I like everything you've said is I consider it to be so true. I know many people would share your thoughts. I would like to emphasize on two things that you mentioned here. Mindset, I think it's important, definitely, because, well, especially for women, if we don't believe that we deserve things, we will never get them. So, first of all, knowing inside that we can do it, that we deserve it, that it is all right, and we're capable of achieving anything we set our minds to. And second of all, opportunities. I think here people in, well, in charge of well, HR or hiring positions should also this more than a CV analyze what is the candidate's background, no? And it is important like to see, okay, yes, we can have uh, a man, well, a male candidate as well versus a female candidate, like a woman applying for a position. But what is the background of this female candidate? There are so many experiences that a woman has throughout her life that prepare her for senior roles, and I think opportunity is the first step to opening the door to have more female leaderships in the tourism industry, and this is what we're fighting for every day as well. So thank you so much, Sumia, for bringing this to the table. And I wanted to continue with Aayusha now. So we know that through the great work you do, we've seen that you're a leader in the tourism industry, you're a visionary, and with your work, you ensure that communities are creating an authentic brand through homestays. So I was wondering if you like, do you still face challenges and barriers, and do you consider them that those to be only because you're a woman? And I would also complement this as well, because we've mentioned already that even though research shows that women represent over half of the tourism employment worldwide, as we mentioned, only a small percentage actually occupies senior or strategic roles. And it has also been demonstrated that women tend to be concentrated in the lowest paid status jobs in the tourism. So I would also like to ask if you consider this to be true. Like, what is your personal opinion about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Salim. So I think I resonate, and I think I agree with all the discussion that we have been doing until this point. Uh, it is difficult, yes, as being a woman. I think being alone in a boardrooms or meetings, I think that's the problem we all have faced, like having everyone stare at you and your need to prove yourself multiplies by I don't know how many times. Like you have to do 3 times hard work, like Sefino said earlier. But I think that's not a problem. I don't think we have a problem of having to do a hard work. We will do our best, and we are here because we want to work, right? But I think the problem is getting interrupted. I think these things are very small when we say it in like a big discussion, panel discussion, but these are very true. Like we get interrupted or maybe explained in a very different way what we are trying to say. So I think these are my problems that I have faced, particularly in the tourism sector. But I think my problem started only when I start to go to the external meeting, because for our office, we are a very gender friendly space and we are trying to create that atmosphere. Our board chairperson, I think they're really encouraging. And both like for me as a CEO and our CEO, both of us are women, and we motivate our communities to take leadership, like women leadership. So I think internally space, so even when I am in a safest space, I have to face these kind of problems, right? So you can well imagine how it is for other women. Like my family is very supportive, went to good school, got good education, had good opportunities to get employed in good, nice organization. But still I have to feel less than a man when I represent in a meeting. So I think when we say women empowerment, women leadership, we cannot basket us all in one basket as well, because there are very different challenges. And for me, the challenges starts when I go for an external meeting, because even across other industries, I have heard so many other questions that sometimes makes me disempowered, like when it's not tourism industry, but as a representative from another organization, I went for a meeting and people asked me, how does your husband feel about your work? So you can imagine, right? Like the agency I have for myself. So as women leaders, I think that's the problem we face, about knowing, oh, your parents allow you to travel, even though I am 30 plus, or your husband is fine. Wow, your husband is allowing you to travel and work in travel sector. I think a lot of problems comes from assuming and stereotyping and making this position for a patriarchal system like very strong. I think that's the problem. And I also saw this thing in a chat box like about how Sri Lanka has low representation in tourism, and even Soumya mentioned it across MENA region. I think it's very similar to Nepal as well, like South. Because there isn't enough research done in for South Asia specifically, right? So what we study or what we go through is for the global reports, mostly focused on the Western countries or more developed countries. So the gap is even wider. So that yes, as a women, there are a lot of challenges and holding us back because often we are stereotyped to take the nurturing role, not like a household chore, not to be divided between both men and women, but women need to work at the office and then come back home. And so sometimes empowering women and working with communities, it's very tricky also, because sometimes we need to reflect back, are we adding burden to the women? Like they need to do the household chores as well. So how do we educate each other, like with the communities, for the communities, but also together with the communities? Like we also need to understand how we can sensitize the family, the community, and everyone. So, and moving on to the another question about the low paying jobs. Yes, I do agree. There has been research, but not just because of the research done, but I think with the jobs that we see around that women hold, I think that a very important discussion to be that we need to question ourselves, because in most of the lucrative position, even within the tourism industry, be it guides or transportation facilitators like drivers, or even maybe spa workers, I think the ones who get a lot of tips like chefs, I think they are mostly held by men, and the lower end or the low paying jobs are held by the women. So yes, there is a difference there. And I think that difference doesn't come just like that. There's a lot of factors that affect those kind of problems, like limited access to collaterals or limited access to loans for women so that they cannot start their own SMEs or enterprises. And also, I think most of us, I think we discuss it often in our office as well, like the limited access to networking, be it formal or informal. I think most particularly the informal networking part, where men can stay after office and discuss more ideas with their friends. But for women, there is always a rush to go back to the house and do their responsibilities, like the so-called responsibilities. So I think that is very important when we think about why women are getting low-paying jobs. Like I think Sonia said, we really need to reflect on these kind of things. Yes, women are getting low paying jobs. What can we do? Because they have limited skills. Maybe because they don't have enough time after office to go for additional training, or maybe they don't have enough time for building an informal networking circle. So I think these kind of things need to be discussed when we say women can earn more money or women just cannot earn more money. So yeah, these are the points. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aayusha. You've opened up some very interesting discussion topics as well. I totally agree that each country within each region might have a different perception on how women's role is being conceived. I think it depends on each society basically, but I think well, I come from Ecuador and I totally connect with this having a patriarchal society, and I think there's a root cause that like there's a root to our beliefs about the role of women in general that would need to be changed. I think we like where I come from as well. We have it as well. Other countries are doing have been advancing in this as well, which is great. But of course, there's a lot to be done, and also because well, it is said that yeah, like we were mentioning, women occupy a lot of roles in the tourism industry. But what are these roles? No, they're mostly, as we mentioned, not senior roles or roles where you can actually decide, which is what we need in order to have as well better institutions. And one thing I also wanted to mention is the role of conciliation, which is another topic as well, and be happy to if we could discuss it at some point, because yes, because women are associated with having a role of taking care of the household and such. It is a different you have different times and different opportunities or availability actually to perform some jobs. So thank you so much for bringing these topics as well to the table. And we have a couple of more questions. I wanted to continue with Shiva. Just wanted to ask how do you continue to boost leadership roles in for women in the industry in your organization?
Thank you, Celine, for the question. First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, we are an organization which is led by women, and the founder of it is Minu Vadera. And we have both the organization, Azad Foundation, which is a non-profit organization, and Saka, both being led by. I mean, the board of directors of both the organization are purely female employees. I mean, female. And then all our leadership roles in both the organization, like 80% of them are female. So likewise, like when we have all the leadership role as female, we also believe in getting the drivers or other department, like, to train them more. So what we do is like, first and foremost is we need to recognize the girls who are like, who can be like promoted as a leader in future. So first we recognize them, and then we need to provide training to them. So it's not every girl, it may not be like possible for every woman who come to work can be a leader, who can lead the team or who can lead the company. So we start recognizing them with their basic behavior and the responsibility that they take in. Then we train them, we select them, and then we train them on two different criteria. One is on a professional training, and the other one is on a personal end. So on a professional, obviously, it would be the technical training and all the process related training that we need to, and the skill set that we need to build for them to work on a professional level. And on a personal level, we work on their basic skill, on their personal skills, the attitude, the behavior, and we also give them more exposure to other organizations. Like, I mean, like they travel outside to other organizations and see how they're working. We provide them all the facilities and also exposure to media and, like talk to people who are coming to the organization, share their experience and learn from the experience of others. These are all the kind of different kinds of exposure that we give to the girls, so that once they feel like, they can take the responsibility on a personal end. When they feel that they can take the responsibility and they can start, we promote them as leaders. So it's not like first we promote them and then we train them. It is like we recognize them, we train them, and then push them towards becoming a leader, and then we promote them as a leader. And this happens on both the ends. It's on both the organization, on Saka as well as in Azad. So Azad Foundation, along with Women with Wheels program, they have another program which is called Female Leadership Program, which we call it as FLP. So through this program, what they do is like the mobilizers, they identify the females in the communities that our girls come from as drivers. So these are young girls. They choose the girls who would be like, who can actively participate with the communities and show their leadership qualities for the women who are there in the same community. Like getting their identity cards uh, prepared. I mean, going to the police station, helping the women when if there is a like issue with the violence in the domestic violence or like any kind of help or the depression that female needs in the society. And at the same time, when the drivers come, the female drivers who come to take the training in Azad Foundation, they would also face a lot of challenges. So through these community leaders that we select, I mean, trained through the FLP or the Female Leadership Program, with the same leaders, we go to their houses and we build them a like confidence to discuss in the family like why this job is important for her, or like what is she going to do in the job, like how is she going to earn and what is her future in this job. And at the same time, on the Sakha side, like we prepared team leaders, senior captains, or even we have the technical person who is one of our senior drivers taking care of the vehicles with like getting its permit and fitness done, all the mechanical part done. So whatever they are interested in, we train them and we give them more skill set. We train, they get to take them to the showrooms where the manufacturing happens. We'll show them like how the parts of the vehicle, which is not a basic training that we do at the end when we train them for drivers. So we give them more technical knowledge, we give them more exposure, and through this they come out as best leaders. And we have like around 6 to 7 leaders in Delhi as of now. And this is like this is the same trend, we follow it across all the centers that we work for.
Thank you so much, Shiva, and for sharing the training. I think it's valuable that we look at the professional side, of course, but also the personal training as well. It's empowering, and I think you've done a great work with that, and yeah, with all the, we'll be asking a bit later about if you could share some of these inspirational stories, but I think we'll leave that to the end. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And I would like to continue with Tshepiso. And so we know that many women, as we've been speaking, are heads of their household and breadwinners for their extended families. So uh, how have you had to use your leadership skills to equip women in your organization to be able to support their families? And also following a bit more what Shiva was mentioning, what skills do you on what skills do you train them, or do you think they need more training?
Thank you for your question. Just to dwell more on the training that we are providing, so for both genders, for the males and the females. That one, I believe that when it comes to readiness, to work readiness, and to actually step into the tourism industry at the level that we are training them, it covers all the other technical skills, covering the subjects or the modules that we are training them on. Now, what I do is I focus more on the life skills when it comes to the females. I like the point that Sonia mentioned of the mindset that the community has or the people around us has, that when they look at a woman, then they say a woman is much more organized. Therefore, why we not put them in an admin position rather than the executive one, or where they can lead? So what I do is I try to let them look up to me at how I live, besides my personal life, but when it comes to my professional life. So when I do things in my workspace, I allow them to be much more exposed to what I do, so that at the end of the day, they can take, or they can be equipped with certain life skills that they can use, rather than just the basic ones that we know of having to survive, like the basic skills that I needed to perform the task at home, as you mentioned, still in the household chores, the one of cooking, cleaning, or whatever any other task that will be allocated to them. So what I do is I share the life skills that I have got from my experience or from my educational background with them. In this way, it enables them to deal effectively with life challenges that they are facing, because I believe we can equip them with much knowledge of the professional aspect of how to deal with such issues professionally and everything. But once you do not have the life skills, especially as a woman, that's where it becomes hard. And that's what I picked up, that if I equip them with the life skills, if I share with them my experiences and my knowledges, then they get to pick, they get to use some of the things that I have gained in order to survive in life. I always do this in a jokingly manner, and it has come to a point whereby it actually makes me smile a day, because I will normally comment on, even on their appearances when they come to class. If I last saw you last week and you're coming to class and you're having this beautiful hairstyle, I will comment to them that such a lady, send me a nice hairstyle, nice hairdo. And it is so nice to see how such a small act of positivity can actually just brighten their day. And as much at the beginning, it was just a thing that I'm used to, of complimenting them. But I actually saw how it started boosting their confidence, to a point where by the other one, if they come and I'm not commenting, they actually want that thing to hear that, am I looking beautiful today? Am I hitting in? Why am I not getting the comment? And I believe by boosting their confidence and actually making them aware of how much capability they have, they can actually make it in the business world of the tourism industry. Because we can equip them with as much technical skills, but if we do not also boost that confidence in them and make them aware of how much capable they are, then at the end of the day, you find them sitting at home and not using the skills that we equip them with. So what I do is actually I go much more into their, I do not want to say personal skills, but I go into the interpersonal ones and remind them of how capable they are. Because at the end of the day, if we were to be realistic and tell the truth, and if the guys would agree with us, women give so much life. We give life to each and every single thing. So I work on their mentality and try to equip them with the life skills that they can use.
Well, thank you so much, Tshepiso. I think what you mentioned about, a compliment or something that might seem so small, but in the end, it can create such a big difference. So thank you for doing that, because it's valuable, and I'm sure lots of these women and men as well will treasure this, and this will empower them to also become better person and better professionals, no, and always with positivism. So thank you so much. And I want to continue with Soumya. So we know that you've recently made history by hiring G Adventure's first ever female tour leaders in the Middle East, which we're sure was a challenging experiences. And well, for sure you have seen, we were wondering if you have seen any positive results to having more women on the road. And also, you could share with us what actions has your organization taken to empower women in general, especially to occupy leadership roles?
Thank you, Celine, for your question. So yes, I mean, to talk about the female CEO. So for those of you who don't know, CEO stands for Chief Experience Officer, and that's what we call our tour leaders at G Adventures. And yes, so this year, I think this was a goal of mine and of my team since I started with G Adventures a while ago, and I think it was definitely very difficult, because coming in as well to G Adventures and being the manager of a full team of CEOs who were all men, and working in such a and also working with different suppliers and DMCs, which were also mainly all men, was a bit of a challenge for sure. And I think this is as well. I mean, I don't think, I wouldn't say necessarily that this is something to do with gender. It's for you to come in as a new person, and you need to obviously prove yourself to the team. But I think coming as a new manager and as a new female manager in a position like this does definitely have more challenges than if it was a male manager coming in. So I definitely think that was challenging, but it took a lot of time for me to gain the trust and the confidence, as well as the respect of everybody. And yes, like I said, that was definitely a goal of mine from the beginning, and for myself and for the region, but also my manager as well, who is amazing and who also pushed me and supported me in making this decision, and really following this goal. And so we worked on that for a while. And I think the struggle was definitely it relates a bit to what all of you ladies were saying, is that when we were coming into trying to find women CEOs, and we work with suppliers and DMCs throughout the region, and so we were going to them to try to ask them for potential candidates, and this is something that we want to do. It's a project we want to make happen, and we wanted their help. That definitely there was a lot of kind of, oh no, it's not going to happen. So we were faced with this, and when we were asking, why is it not going to happen, a lot of it was, well, actually there are no women CEOs. It's just difficult because of the culture of the country. There was discussion about culture, religion, and all of these things. And I think as well, I know that this was something that was that they tried to do in the past. And I think that I think it has to do with the fact as well, where the previous people were men managers. And so when they were trying to do this and they were faced with, well, no, you're not going to find women CEOs. They just don't do that. It's difficult. Their husbands don't allow them to go around and travel for like 2 weeks around the country. And who's going to take care of the kids, and who's going to take care of the home? So they were faced with that. And then again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that, what that bias and that mentality that we have. So the reaction was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. But I think for me now, coming in as a female myself, and as somebody who is from the region, who speaks the language, who has grown up in the culture, has grown up in the religion, when I was faced with that reaction, when I tried to make this happen, I was like, well, no, that's not true. I am a female. I can tell you that I don't think that way. I am an Arab woman, a Berber woman, who is in a Muslim country. I can tell you that that's not how we think, that that's not possible. You cannot come to me and say this to me. And so when I came back, coming from this perspective as well and saying, no, I'm not going to accept this and I don't agree with it. So we need to do whatever it is that we can to make this happen, and that there will be women CEOs out there. We just need to look for them. And when I was faced, some obviously after I came back and I took a stand on it, then they tried to look, and then they helped, and then we were able to find. And then others were just like, well, we looked and we couldn't find any. And I said, okay, fine. If you couldn't find any, then let's see, I will find. So then I started to look for them myself, and I started to go on LinkedIn, and I started to go on Google, and I started to go everywhere and talk to people that I know in the industry, and also rely on our existing male CEOs, which I have to say that they were extremely supportive. And so rely on them as well to look out there and find contact. And so after doing all of that, then we were able to find them. And in a way, it was great, because I in some certain situations, I had to go back to the GMCs and some of the suppliers, some of the people who would say, no, you're not going to find them. It's not going to happen. And I said, well, you said they don't exist. What about all these people that I was just able to find? So I think sometimes you just have to be that person. You have to be stubborn, you have to be assertive, and you have to know that what you want, and you prioritize that, and just, prove people wrong, and do your best to make it happen. And that's what we did in this instance. And we found great candidates, and we brought them in, and we did trainings, and we supported them, and yes, and we've had female CEOs now across the region have been working with us. And I've made this a priority of mine as well, to continue to recruit female CEOs, and it's something that I continuously do. And I have put a target of mine for the next, or for the team for the next year, to get to a point where we have 50% female CEOs and 50% male CEOs across the region. And I think that that's something that's very important. And at certain situations as well, I had to make decisions where I had to make some types of exceptions towards female CEOs. And I think again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that do we do that? Because if we don't do that, then if you don't, for example, accept the fact that, you know, you're bringing in a female CEO, but she can only do, for example, this amount of work during this period of time, or this type of work or that type of work. And then you're like, okay, well, that's not really something that I accept, because normally we make sure everybody's running all the trips all the time, and we want everybody to be available and all of that stuff. But if you do not make those exceptions, you're never going to be able to give those female CEOs a chance for them to join the team, a chance for them to learn, a chance for them to grow, and a chance for them to have experience. So, and those situations, I have to make that decision. And I said, yes, I will make exceptions because I have a goal and I have a target to have these female CEOs join our team and to empower them and to help them learn and grow, you know, as CEOs, but also as women in the industry. And to answer the second part of your question is, have I seen a difference maybe in terms of having more female CEOs or on the road? I definitely have. And I think we also have to look at the fact that at G Adventures, around 64% of our travelers are women, and a lot of those women are single travelers. So, and again, it goes back to what Shiva was saying earlier in terms of that she's seen that there is the positive effects, our safety, our security, and all of those things you could definitely see. And I've been seeing those in the evaluations that we're receiving from our travelers, that there is that aspect, because when you have a female CEO leading the tour, and when you have almost, sometimes we have entire clients on our trips who are females, and it creates this dynamic, it creates this this spirit, it creates this nice kind of unique atmosphere, having an entire team, an entire tour of females. And as well, I think that I know that when our travelers come to the region, they do have a lot of questions to our CEOs. And a lot of these questions have to do with culture, have to do with women's rights, have to do with religion, because of course they're coming into, you know, the countries in the region, they're intrigued, they want to learn about everything. So a lot of those questions, we get them. And I think it's interesting and it's important that as much as they get the male perspective coming from the male CEO about these topics, that they also get the female perspective from the woman herself, telling them how I, as a woman CEO, who is something that's very unique in the MENA region, how I feel about my role, how I feel about being a woman running tours, how I feel about, you know, the religion, how I feel about women's rights in the country. So I think that that's very important to have those two perspectives. Now, this, of course, does not mean that the male CEOs are not doing that and not doing an amazing job, which they are. But I think it's important as well to have those female CEOs, to give them those opportunities and to have that perspective as well, for us and for our travelers. Yeah, and I think I want to also like talk about just a small point, is that when I was talking earlier about the fact that women weren't given these opportunities as store leaders, and how there was this kind of backlash at the beginning, and this struggle to convince the suppliers and push towards having female CEOs. There was this situation that I had as well, is that, you know, some of our suppliers, they want as well for us to get CEOs or tour leaders who are experienced. And of course, we all want to have experienced tour leaders who are going to do a great job, who are going to run our tours to the best, at the highest level. And so, for example, in Oman, which is one of the countries in the region, the conversation with a colleague of mine was that, well, these people don't have any experience at all. But then I said, do you know why they don't have experience? It's because women as tour leaders were actually not possible. That job was not possible in Oman until 2019. That's when the Ministry of Tourism said, okay, now we accept women to be tour leaders. So they opened that position up for women. So women then started to fight to try to get positions, which was such a new thing. We're talking about 2019. And then of course the pandemic happened. So then they couldn't work for 2 years. And now that we're trying to get this, of course, the woman isn't going to be experienced if it's only 2019 that she was able to take on this position. So again, it really goes back to looking at the background and to looking at the history. And we can't just say, well, we want the best experienced ones, and because we want to run the best tours, so we're just going to have to take the male CEOs. No, we have to take those women, we have to give them the chance, and we have to mentor them and help them and allow them to learn and to grow, and to, you know, to be great as CEOs and as women leaders. Yeah, so I think that that's definitely what it has been. And I think that for myself, but also for us at G Adventures as an organization, we continue to push the boundaries and we continue to do our best in terms of really kind of breaking those stereotypes and breaking social norms and making these types of differences, because I think it's important for us to do that, and it can start with something so small, but when we do one act that's a small act, if I do something and the other person does something and the other person, then that's how we're going to be able to overall make an impact and really kind of change that mentality that I was talking about earlier and make a change in the society. And whether it's regional, whether it's national, whether it's global, any type of change is necessary. And these types of conversations that we're having as well are also important and are included in the type of small changes that we can make to empower women in general and to really make a change throughout the tourism industry, but also globally.
Well, thank you so much, Sumia, for sharing all of this. And thank you for being that person that made things happen. As you mentioned as well earlier, it's just about giving the opportunity. And then, of course, if we're talking about women not being able to lead a tour until 2019, of course, that experience is not going to be there. But there comes people like you, where they understand these realities and they work to empower these women and to also complement men's work at the same time, because both like a complement of both people in a workspace is important as well. And yeah, I think it's about giving those opportunities, doing the research, finding solutions, and just being able to create special memories in the end, because this is what the tourism industry is looking for, just giving travelers memorable moments and getting them closer to all aspects of a culture. Thank you so much for sharing that. And well, just wanted to ask Shiva, because we know we have Bubbly here, and we were mentioning about the training that is provided, and I also would like to ask if you want to share that when the Women in Wheels program started in New Delhi with the support of corporate partners, one of which was G Adventures, and now you are in multiple states in India. So if you could share the names of the current locations, and also if we can have Bobby as well share her story, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. So we started our partnership with G Adventure through Planeterra in 2014. And this is when Planeterra approached us to, start the transfer of, airport transfers for all the travelers coming to Delhi. And initially, we did not have too many vehicles to start with. We were like around 2 to 3 vehicles at that part of time, and very limited number of drivers. So then Planeterra helped us to buy a few more vehicles, and then to hire more drivers. Then we started in October 2014. The operation started with G Adventure, and to start with, we had like 2 to 3 trip ports that we started our operations with. Then slowly, now I think in 2016 we had the whole transfer, like all the travelers coming to Delhi, arriving at Delhi, we started giving a transfer from Delhi to airport to the hotels. And in 2017, again, like when we started we exist in Delhi, Jaipur, Indore, and Kolkata, and we are going to start soon in Chennai as well. And then in 2017, 16, we started the operations in Jaipur. And in 17, we started even the sightseeing and railway station transfers in Jaipur for 3 to 4 trip codes that arrive at Jaipur. So now we have around 72 drivers and around 40 vehicles. And now the team, which was around hardly like 10 to 15, including the operations team, we are 100 plus team now. And Bubbly is like one of, let's Bubbly also speak. And if I think, yeah, I don't know. Did you ask me about the training part of it? I forgot about
Yeah, no problem. Because you've shared as well
Yeah.
about the training, and I we would love to hear if we're from Bobby, if she'd like to share her experience, how has working with women wheels been for her, and if she has a message as well for all the women out there. We'll be very thankful, and yeah, we're so grateful for her to join as well.
Before Bubbly would go, Shiva, I saw you were translating for Bubbly, right? Is there anything you want us to just give anything about the discussion which was happening for Bubbly? But you've been translating, right? For
Yeah,
Bubbly?
I've been translating to her.
ओके ठीक है बबली जी अगर आपको कुछ पूछना है ये क्या बात कर रहे थे वो भी आप पूछ सकते हैं अभी
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्ते। मैं दिल्ली में सखा कैब वुमेन विद व्हील्स के साथ 2015 से एक प्रोफेशनल टैक्सी ड्राइवर के रूप में काम कर रही हूँ।
अच्छा प्रियंका, you want to translate?
Sure,
like
sure,
you
sure.
translated yeah, for the other.
Okay, sure, sure. So Bubbly has been working with women with wheels. आप दिल्ली में थे ना?
हाँ, दिल्ली में।
अभी आप जयपुर में हैं कि दिल्ली में?
नहीं, मैं अभी दिल्ली में ही काम कर रही हूँ।
Okay, so Bubbly has been working with women with wheels in Delhi for the last 7 years. 7 साल बोला था ना आपने?
2015 में मैंने
Okay, she joined Saka in 2015.
मैंने आजाद फाउंडेशन में ट्रेनिंग ली थी। ट्रेनिंग के दौरान मैं बहुत ज़्यादा डरी थी और गाड़ी चलाने के बारे में मैंने कभी सोचा भी नहीं था और घर से कभी बाहर निकली नहीं थी, तो ज़्यादा रूट्स की जानकारी मुझे नहीं थी।
During her training, when she started her training, she said she was really scared and skeptical. And she said she also was not so aware of the routes around Delhi, like the roads and the routes around the city. She was not very aware of them.
तो जब मेरी पहली जॉब सखा में जो लगी थी, पहला दिन मेरा जॉब का था और 6 PM अंधेरा देख के मैं रो पड़ी थी उस टाइम पे। तो मैंने अपनी फ्रेंड को कॉल किया और उन्होंने मुझे हिम्मत दी और बोला कि ऑटो से आप घर जाइए, आप घबराइएगा मत।
So she's sharing her experience, her first day at work, and actually when work got over, it was 6 PM for her in India, in New Delhi, and it got dark, and it was now like it was dark. It was 6 PM, and she was like, "Oh my God, I have to go home." So she actually started crying, like, "Oh my God, how am I going to get home?" So she called up a friend, and a friend said, "Do not worry. You take a cab, and at no point be fearful. Just take a cab or an auto, the tuk-tuk, which we call, just take a tuk-tuk and go home. There's nothing to worry about."
वो दिन और आज का दिन मैं कभी अंधेरा देख के डरी नहीं। मैं अब रात में भी ड्राइविंग करती हूँ और मैं सखा में मेरे अंडर में 10 वुमेन ड्राइवर हैं जो मेरे साथ काम करते हैं।
So she's saying it was that day, which was her first day at Saka Cab, where at 6 PM she was in tears because she did not know how she's going to make it back home. To this day, today that we are talking to her, she's like now she's driving around the cab, even in the night, without any fear whatsoever. So how things have changed from day one to the 7-year experience at Saka, and now currently she's saying she has 10 women drivers under her. Like I said during her introduction, she's a team leader now, so she has 10 women drivers who work under her.
मैं दिल्ली से बाहर की भी बुकिंग्स लेके ट्रैवल करती हूँ और न्यू ड्राइवर जो आते हैं, अगर उनको कोई रूट्स को लेके, ड्राइविंग को लेके प्रॉब्लम होती है तो मैं उनकी भी मदद करती हूँ.
So as her role as a leader, so she's now even taking bookings outside of New Delhi. So she's going to other cities. So उसके लिए आपके लिए तालियां, इतनी big बात है, बहुत बड़ी बात है. So I'm telling you that's a big deal, right? That's huge what you did over there. And now she's also taken the other ladies under her wings who are also with her, and they're also getting trained and guided by her to take on these additional responsibilities of taking these bookings which are outside of Delhi.
मैं ऑपरेशन टीम के साथ मिलकर एयरपोर्ट पे जो काउंटर है उसकी बुकिंग भी संभालती हूँ.
So there is a counter at New Delhi Airport. If any of you are there at any point, it's on T3 terminal, what we call it in New Delhi, and we have a counter. They have a counter there, and she even operates. She's in the operations team, so she's even managing the bookings which happen at the T3 counter. So any international traveler or domestic traveler can just walk up to the counter and take a cab.
मेरे ड्राइवर बनने के बाद मेरी सोसाइटी से काफी महिलाएं ड्राइवर की जॉब के लिए आगे बढ़ी और उन्होंने आजाद फाउंडेशन में ट्रेनिंग ली.
So she's saying, seeing her experience and how well she's done for herself, a lot of women now have started coming from her community, which was a taboo earlier. Now there are a lot of other women who have joined Azad Foundation and who have taken the training to become drivers. She being the inspiration for all of them.
फॉरेनर क्लाइंटों को भी मैंने पिकअप करके उनको ड्रॉप किया. जी एडवेंचर के गेस्टों को भी पिकअप करके सेफ्टी के साथ उनको उनके होटल पे ड्रॉप किया गया और वो भी बहुत खुश होते हैं कि दिल्ली जैसे जाम वाले शहर में हम महिला ड्राइवर इतने ट्रैफिक वाले रोड पे हम गाड़ी चला रहे हैं.
So she's saying, as a driver, she's also taken foreigners, travelers, tourists, and some of them have also been. She's mentioning G Adventures guests. So she said the travelers have always been very happy and very appreciative of the fact that they drive so well. Whoever has been and is in Delhi, I'm in Delhi also. We know our traffic is the worst. It's not the best. So she's saying they always are complimenting her for her driving skills in these really congested roads of New Delhi. Yeah.
मैं खुद पे गर्व करती हूँ कि मैं अपनी फैमिली को संभाल रही हूँ.
She says she takes pride in what she's doing now and about the fact that she is able to support her family.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can see my camera, but I've been smiling pretty much throughout all of this session because everything you've said is so inspiring. Thank you, everyone. We were hoping to get time for some Q&A, but I think we've shared a lot and we're all super appreciative of everything you've shared. Thank you so much for being so well, for providing us with all these insights. We also live in different realities, and it's very interesting for us and for our audience to learn and to get to know your work, your inspiring work a bit better. So thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know if we have 3 minutes, I think. We could stay here forever discussing this because it's such an important and passionate topic. So thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has a final message or anything they would like to share.
Something to Bubbly, just to Bubbly ji. बबली मैं
Yes,
आपको कुछ
please.
बताना चाहती हूँ. यहाँ पे सबने जो जैसे बात बोली और आपने भी जो बोला, उन्होंने एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात सौम्या जी ने बोली, जो सबने बोला, वो भी बाय द वे जी एडवेंचर्स के में ही काम करते हैं. उन्होंने ये बोला कि हमें अपनी सोच बदलने की जरूरत है. तो जैसे आप आए, आपके आने के बाद कितने सारे लोग ड्राइवर बनना चाहते हैं आपकी कम्युनिटी से. तो आपने वो सबने ये बात बोली, सबको वो एक इंसान को वो बड़ा कदम लेना है और फिर लोगों की सोच बदल सकती है. Soumya, I just said what you had said, like it's important to change the mindsets. And I'm like, you took that big step. She was that one person in a community who took that huge step. And she is helping change the mindsets in that community of hers in this space. I just wanted to share that with her for her to, yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you so
for
much, Priyanka. Thank you so much for translating and probably for sharing this as well. This has been a very inspiring session. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it, and thank you so much for joining. I hope we can have a second part at some point. It would be super interesting, and yes, I cannot thank you all enough for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. And nice meeting
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I just
Bye-bye.
wanted to say before we close the meeting, thank you everyone for coming. If any of you are open to meeting any of the other panelists, I'm talking directly